Let me preface this by saying that I am by no means a stranger to completely dumb ideas. However, this is by far the dumbest thing I've ever attempted. Something so monumentally, astronomically, titanically stupid that the biggest morons alive today are staring at me, thinking that I have completely lost it. Something that nobody in their right mind ever dream of attempting. Luckily for me, I am not, never have been, nor never will be in the right mind. So, I'm the perfect person for the job. So, Astro Bot. That's a game that exists, and it's full of references to all kinds of PlayStation games from across the brand's history, covering everything from heavy hitters like Ratchet & Clank, Tomb Raider, The Last of Us, and Uncharted, cult classics and semi-forgotten games like Gex, Medieval, and Klonoa, indie games like Journey and Flower, and even the extremely weird deep cut picks like Double Dice, Incredible Crisis, and Mr. Mosquito? Okay then. So that's a lot of games, right? I thought so too, which is why I got the idea to play literally all of them. I've had people call me absolutely insane for even attempting this, which, to be honest, is nothing new there. And to those people, I say, look, just be glad I didn't attempt to play every game referenced in Smash Bros. Ultimate. That's too much even for me. So why make this a YouTube thing alongside that astronomical undertaking? Simple, I just thought it'd be fun to show off my thoughts on the games presented as I work my way through the list. And you get to watch my sanity erode away in semi-real time. That being said, there are a few caveats to this challenge. While I will be attempting to play all of these on official hardware, and by official I mean any system and/or Stormfront where these games are currently available for play and purchase, I will have to delve into emulation for some of the really rare and expensive games, or for those that never released outside of Japan. I will also be allowing remakes and/or remasters just to effectively make life a little easier, as those will naturally be more readily available and accessible. If I end up stumbling across the originals, then I definitely will play those as well, but they will only count towards completing the challenge if I haven't played the original version before I played the remake. For some bots where it's not clear as to what games from the respective franchise have been directly referenced, I'll either play the first game in the series, or whichever one I can easily get my hands on. This is mainly due to fighting games because I own both Tekken 3 and Street Fighter 2 and 4, and I really don't want to hunt down the first games in those series. Same goes for Guilty Gear and Ace Combat. Oh boy. Also, 2 games referenced are effectively disqualified due to essentially being unplayable, sort of. Those being Dreams and Destiny. Destiny, or more so Destiny 2, is so different from the launch version and has had so much story content effectively removed that there is no way I can experience the game in its entirety. As for Dreams, support for that game has ended and the servers have been shut down, so that's effectively made that one sort of boring. Also, Dreams is more of a creation tool than a game anyway, so... Oh, there's also 3 games that I played recently enough prior to starting the challenge that the experience was still fresh enough in my mind. I don't feel like replaying them again so soon, so let's just talk about those right now. Yes, I know this is probably committing a cardinal sin for some, but counting the Silent Hill 2 remake as me having played Silent Hill 2 is honestly a lot easier on my wallet. Look, my options at the time were to spend ages hunting down a copy of Silent Hill 2 worth about more than £100, or getting the original off somewhere like GOG or installing a PS2 emulator and dealing with the headaches of getting that to work. Or I guess there's always that hilariously terrible HD collection. Anyway, talk about a game beating the odds. The initial announcement of this game was met with apprehension and derision from the majority of people, given that Konami's previous attempts to revitalize the Silent Hill franchise were less than great, and developer Bloober Team's previous output having some rather unfortunate implications around the treatment of those suffering from mental health disorders. But credit to the parties involved, they managed to make something at the end of the day that, while not a groundbreaking masterpiece like the original, is still a fine game in its own right. I was gonna say it's an enjoyable experience, but calling anything from Silent Hill enjoyable feels kinda wrong. I honestly don't think I've ever felt as unsettled playing a horror game than I have with this. I feel as though I'm never truly safe, like something to attack at any moment. Even in places where there's no enemies around, the general feel of the environment just feels, wrong and off. It's uncanny, like there's something off about the place that you just can't explain. Sure, gameplay here is kinda basic, feeling like just your average third-person survival horror game, but it functions well enough for what it is. Then again, it's the set pieces and level design that are the real stars of the show here. The puzzles are a perfect balance between challenging but not a hair-pulling level of frustrating. Each location feels dark and foreboding, standouts being the rundown apartment building, the incredibly unsettling hospital, in its even creepy Otherworld version, and the Eldritch Labyrinth. And speaking of set pieces, this game probably has the best introduction to a horror monster I've ever seen. As you explore the apartment building, you'll notice your radio going absolutely crazy with static. You turn a corner, and BAM! It's Pyramid Head, standing just behind a grate, bathed in eerie red light. You're expecting him to start chasing you or attack, but he doesn't. He just stands there. Until you explore further and come back, and he's just gone. Which then puts you on edge for the rest of the level as you hear the scraping sound of his knife and his heavy footsteps as you explore, and you don't know when and where he's going to strike, and oh, I love it. So, how would I rank it overall? Probably a high 7 out of 10, low 8 out of 10. Or for those who use tier lists, B tier, probably. And from one spooky title to another, we now arrive at Bloodborne. I'm just going to come out and say it, Bloodborne is now honestly one of my absolute favourite games of all time. The atmosphere and world design is excellent, the combat is fluid and visceral and adrenaline pumping, the soundtrack is equal parts haunting and beautiful, and the story combines elements of gothic and cosmic horror to create a truly unique experience among From Software's catalogue. And then there's the Old Hunters DLC, which honestly houses some of the absolute best add-on content ever stuck into a game, all capped off with a village full of mutant fish people, and the fight against the toughest yet most satisfying boss fight, the Orphan of Kos. Speaking of boss fights, like most of From Software's games, they're the true stars of the show here, and while they still capture the adrenaline and satisfying feeling of facing off against something that effortlessly brushed you aside and still managing to kill it, the more aggressive combat allows them to be a lot more fast-paced. You have to take the initiative here, capitalize on any opportunity, create your openings, you face off against all kinds of disgusting monstrosities. Father Gascoigne, Vicar Amelia, Abriatas, Blood-Starved Beast, Orphan of Kos, Ludwig, Murgo's Wet Nurse, German the First Hunter, and easily the best boss I've ever faced in any video game, Lady Maria of the Astral Clock Tower. All of them are frantic, fast-paced fights that truly test your skills at the game. FromSoft's skill at environmental storytelling is on full display here. Every location has its own story to tell through various environmental clues, enemy placement, even things like the enemy types and enemy behavior, all serve a purpose in telling you just how bad the situation in Yharnam was long before you arrived. How much the Great Ones infest and controlled the lives of the people living there, how much damage the Church and the Old Blood has caused, and how much this city was beyond saving. As the game progresses, the few surviving NPCs slowly start succumbing to disease and insanity until you're effectively the only sane person still standing, and you're capable of witnessing the true eldritch horrors inhabiting the ruins. It's honestly nothing like anything else I've ever played. Oh, the labyrinths are also there too if you want additional challenges and a super secret boss to fight, but really they're not all that special. I found them kinda boring, personally. Oh yeah, it goes without saying that this game gets the full 10 out of 10. Easy S tier. And from one of my favourite games of the last console generation to one of my favourite games of this generation, Stellar Blade. This is basically what happens when you take Nier Automata, Jedi Fallen Order, Dark Souls, a dash of Cyberpunk 2077, and stick them all in a blender. The resulting game is a fast-paced, somewhat challenging hack and slash based around well-timed dodges and parries, which require opportunities to slice enemies into tiny bits. You play as Eve, an android soldier dispatched from a moon colony to an Earth that's been overrun by horrific monsters in order to wipe them out and reclaim the planet for humanity. Wait a minute. Along the way, you'll explore a ruined city, a desert, a small settlement of survivors, and mostly peaceful. Okay, yeah, this does sound very similar to Nier Automata, but let me assure you that these games are quite different. Nier Automata is more flashy and feels more akin to Metal Gear Rising or Devil May Cry, whereas the combat in Stellar Blade is a lot more punishing. It takes inspiration from various Souls-likes in that you have limited healing items, checkpoints that restock your supply and heal you back to full strength, but also respawn all enemies, and while the combat is stylish, you can't just rush in and start swinging. You need to watch enemy moves and time your counters to get the best results. And whatever you do, don't get overconfident and charge straight into a large group. That'll basically get you killed. Story-wise, this game is also a lot more optimistic than the tragic, bittersweet nature of Nier Automata. Most side quests have heartwarming resolutions, most characters get happy endings if you take the time to interact with them, and the ones that don't still have a hopeful tone to their overall stories. I'd also go into the details of the main story, but I've chosen not to, given how recently this one came out. So if you want to see how that ends up, go play it for yourselves. This one would have been an easy S tier or 10 out of 10, but there's a few moments where your main weapon is stripped away from you, forcing you to fight enemies with a somewhat clunkier range combat system, which works fine when used as an accompaniment to your melee attacks, but falls short when it's your main method of dealing damage. And then they make you fight a couple of bosses with it. Joy. So with that taken into consideration, Stellar Blade finds itself with an incredibly high A tier or 9 out of 10 ranking. Well folks, that'll do it for now. I'll see you back here once again with the next batch of games, which should be fairly soon. All depends on how a smooth editing process goes. Take care.